Hi, honey.
Hello.
I never say honey.
I
Hi,
know.
baby. Hi, Anna. I actually
It feels weird when you call me honey.
I've been calling little Alessia
I know.
honey.
You have been.
Yes, so for everyone that is unsure about the pronunciation, it's phonetically how it sounds. I've had people ask.
Yes, no, we should cover that. We have our baby girl.
We have our baby girl.
Her name is Alessia. Alessia. It's
4 syllables.
phonetic.
Mm-hmm.
So it's essentially just how it's spelled is how you say it.
That's right.
No Alicia, no Alessia, just Alessia. Simple.
And, what's her full name?
Alessia Colette Zerman Cicone. ACZC.
ACZC. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And then we got her right here next to us, and we got Miles. And she's doing little hiccups. I don't know if people can hear it.
I know, it might be hard to pick up in the background.
Got her eyes open, and she's hanging out. And Miles is yawning and jealous, but he's also
doing better. Every day he does better.
Yeah. And oh, baby, we gotta tell them the meaning of the names. Very important.
Well, I'll leave that up to you because you are very excited about
I think it's so cool. So Alessia is an Italian name of origin.
Yes.
Anna's half Italian. I'm half Italian. So little Alessia is half Italian.
That's right.
And Alessia means defending warrior.
Ooh.
Pretty cool.
Yes.
And then Colette, which is her middle name, is French origin, and it means people of victory. So she is the defending warrior or for the people of victory.
So cool.
So cool.
I know, you were really excited.
And then people are like, well, what does Zerman mean? It's just a last name. Last names don't have meanings, people. Relax. Zerman's her second middle name. And then Cicone is her actual last name. I don't like doing the double last name.
I kind of thought it might be a good idea to do a hyphenated last name so that we had a little bit of both our family. Mm-hmm. And obviously people are still left out because you have your dad's last name, I have my mom's last name.
There's no Gruber and there's no Moriak in there.
So naming,
you can't have 4 last names.
But it's hard to have 4 last names, so we went with our last names and then...
And we went with our Italian last names.
But you were super not into the idea of a hyphenated last name, having grown up with one. So
yeah, it's the DMV, driver's license, it's just passport. It's always been just credit cards.
Yeah.
It's just been a headache having a hyphenated last name, so I didn't want to do that to her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So should we tell people how she came into this world?
This is the birth story episode.
Story.
Gonna get total thousands of views. I love
thousands.
It.
Actual thousands.
Yeah. So baby, let's start with when it all began.
Well, I think it's worth saying, so my due date was June 12th, and as I was approaching my due date, my OB had already started talking induction if I were to go past my due date. Now, I do want to make a disclaimer. I know that you always think it's funny that I make my disclaimers on here, but because the whole subject of birth can be a little bit...
people are very opinionated about
People are opinionated, and also I know that people can be sensitive, and rightfully so. My birth story and the way that I wanted my birth to be is not necessarily what I think is the...
correct way
or the only way. It was just my personal ideal birth.
And that's totally fine.
So I just want that to be said right in the beginning. That way people don't try to compare their own or think that I think this is how women should give birth.
Right. I think also we should give a disclaimer here because I know sometimes some women that are pregnant don't want to hear negative stories.
Right.
We're just start off. This is a positive story.
This is a positive story.
And Anna got exactly what she wanted.
I did. And you might hear things that seem intimidating but the thing is that to me it's a raw, realistic portrayal of a positive birth story.
It's not perfect.
You can watch birth videos that are like black and white and they're montages of all the best parts of the serene and the serenity parts of birth. You can hear women who give birth without experiencing extreme discomfort, and that's all great. You'll hear mine, and for me, I had an incredibly positive birth, and it really came to fruition what I wanted. So let's put that out there. This is not everyone's ideal birth.
It's not a scary story.
It's not a scary story, but listen at your own discretion.
Yeah.
Okay, disclaimer done. So we were approaching my due date. My OB had already started talking induction if I were to go past because For the obstetrics field, they tend not to like you to go past 41 weeks, definitely not past 42 weeks, because of their risk of liability and the risk that maybe something could go wrong in terms of the birth goes up in their eyes. So they do want to, make sure that the baby comes.
And the law in California is that they can't go past 42 weeks.
Yeah. Now, my OB was very supportive of my desire to go into spontaneous birth. It's just that, spontaneous labor. It's just that she also had to fulfill her duties as a doctor.
Right.
And so anyway, my due date is approaching, and the talk of induction's happening, and I'm starting to stress out because I really want spontaneous labor. At about 40 weeks, 5 days, I have my appointment, and my OB says, okay, I'm kind of making my case for why I can go later. I have a perfectly healthy baby at this point. My body's doing well.
Right.
I don't have any signs of any sort of problematic.
All positive indicators.
And so I get my induction date pushed a little further, but it still puts a stress on me because it's
looming.
Scary looming word.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that at that appointment with her, she performs what's called a membrane sweep. And at that point, I'm already just 1 centimeter dilated, which is, it's not...
No contractions or anything.
Not everything, but it's good news because I haven't been having contractions. And it also means that this membrane sweep will work. So what that means, I'll do my best here, is that they strip your membranes from your cervix, and it releases prostaglandins, which then is the hormone that is partially responsible for kicking labor into gear.
Right.
They're not 100% successful all the time, but...
It's what, 25% success rate?
It's something like 25%. Yeah. But you're more likely for them to work if you're after your due date and also if you're already a little bit open, which I was.
Right.
So she stripped my membranes. Personally...
That was Tuesday. Good. And we won't say the date, but relative in that week, we're going to say it's Tuesday. Days.
Yeah, it was Wednesday or Tuesday.
No, it was Tuesday, yeah.
So she does that. I don't think it was anything worse than a pap smear. I was hearing going into it that they were really painful, but I didn't have that experience.
Sure.
So that whole day, I'm feeling like period crampy. And just constant period crampy. No like contracting situations, just a constant state of period. And I lost my mucus plug.
That same day?
That same day. I'm sorry. No, that was the middle of the night.
That was the
middle of that night.
Going into Wednesday morning.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I'm sorry. So just that day I was crampy. I had a little bit of spotting, but that's very normal after a membrane sweep.
Right.
I wasn't feeling super optimistic just because I knew these didn't always work, and at that point I was getting a little bit into my head regarding being quote unquote past due.
Right. Yeah, you were starting to get worried.
Which was counterproductive because you really want your body to be as relaxed as possible.
And I believe at that point, even pre-membrane sweep, you already were feeling a lot of Braxton Hicks.
Oh, yeah.
And you started feeling on Wednesday after the mucus plug different types of lower contractions, but not real contractions or anything, and very spaced and. Yeah.
I did wake up in the middle of the night on Wednesday, so it'd be like Wednesday early morning at 2 a.m. or something. Did feel myself have a little bit more crampiness, and I lost my mucus plug that night, so in the middle of the night, which, again, doesn't mean a whole lot. That could indicate that your labor won't start until
several days
or weeks. It's mucus plugs regenerate, but it was accompanied by what's called bloody show, so I had both of those things together, and that is good news. It doesn't necessarily guarantee labor, but it's good news.
Right.
The next day I woke up and I felt pretty much back to normal.
This is Thursday morning.
Sorry, no, I think you and I have a different timeline of what happened.
Oh, you're talking about Wednesday morning. After the night, yes.
I woke up feeling pretty much back to normal. You know what? We're going to have to jog the days. It was Wednesday that my appointment was.
No, it wasn't. Wednesday was your induction appointment for the following week.
Oh, okay.
And Monday was your generally your appointments were Mondays with the doc.
No, this was Tuesday.
But your induction appointment was pushed to the following Wednesday.
Yeah.
So because you had one more Monday appointment before your scheduled induction appointment.
I kind of feel like we should take the days out of this because it's going to get confusing.
No, it helps because we know the timeline. We know what happens later in the week.
Okay.
Right. So
I'll leave you responsible.
I'm not
for
editing
the days,
anything here.
No, I know. I'm not. I'm not asking you to. I just
So go on.
Me.
So
okay. So
Wednesday during the day you feel normal.
I feel pretty much back to normal.
Just some Braxton Hicks and stuff.
Yeah, little Braxton Hicks. Nothing crazy.
What kind of other things are you doing to try to get labor going?
Oh, yeah, that's a good question. Well, the whole time I've been eating dates, like 4 to 6 dates a day, has been proven. This is even thought in the medical community. It's not strictly woo-woo.
Okay.
That dates soften the cervix. So
okay.
they allow which is true because when my OB was checking my cervix that
she was
day,
like,
she was like, whoa. How is this baby still in you? Like, your cervix is great.
So soft.
It's soft. She's really low at that point. She's sitting super low.
She had been sitting low.
My OB is like, I really don't think you're even going to make it to your induction date.
Right.
And so she's like, don't worry. I don't think we're even going to get that far. Like, everything's looking really good. So I was eating dates. I was hand expressing colostrum because I've heard that nipple stimulation is one good way.
And colostrum was coming out.
Colostrum was actually coming out.
Into a bottle and
so I would do that in the shower because the warmth kind of promoted that to
flow.
You and I were having our intimate time together because that's a big
stimulate labor.
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
I was doing a lot of weighted squats.
That's right.
Squatting in general is really good for
opening up the pelvic
floor and also just like strengthening what's about to occur. And I had been squatting the whole time, the whole pregnancy, but I was making a focus at this point to like do.
You actually did a pause squat workout. This is more of a workout thing, but you hadn't done that ever.
Right.
You were going really light because you don't want to stress your body out with the weight.
Right.
But you still wanted to I still want to get a good workout. And
yes.
I was like, well, babe, you should try like some serious pause squats.
Right.
And like do like little micro up and down.
Right.
And you got a good burn.
Right.
And you were like, woo.
No, it was great. That from a workout perspective, I will definitely keep doing those in the future.
Yeah.
I actually did those the morning I went into labor.
You did the pause squats that morning.
So that would be Thursday
morning.
My day. You know the days better than I. So Wednesday kind of goes by, and we're all just like, woo, like nothing happens.
Do you want to talk about any of the other woo-woo things you were doing to help try to bring on labor?
Just what do you mean? Like I was
you did acupuncture.
Oh, I did acupuncture. Yes,
some regular acupuncture.
Yeah, I got regular acupuncture because
a special type of acupuncture for labor.
It also preps the cervix. I was drinking my red raspberry leaf tea, which is something that strengthens the uterus.
Lots of electrolytes.
Tons of that. I was doing chiropractic to get my pelvis in like the right alignment.
And a specific chiropractic technique.
Called the Webster technique.
The Webster technique.
And with all this said, your body's not going to go into labor
unless
it's ready to go into labor. So that's just point blank. All of that stuff just helps the process of labor.
Make it go smoother.
It goes smoother.
Yes.
So
it might not bring it on.
It might not bring it on. Your body is going to go into labor when it wants to.
Right.
But I'm doing all of that stuff, and so Wednesday goes by, and it's nothing, and I'm starting to feel a little like, dang,
And we're also doing long walks. She's doing lots of walking, which has also been said to help bring on labor, which we always do.
Right. So I wake up Thursday. I'm feeling tired. I'm actually just feeling.
Yeah, you were kind of grumpy Thursday morning.
Thursday morning, I was grumpy for a couple different reasons, but I also.
The cramping, right?
I just, it's like you have this expectation something's coming, and then I just felt like it wasn't happening.
Well, you had posted the eviction notice several weeks before, and the tenant was not responding.
She was like, "No, I'm good." She was squatters' rights, full blown.
Just like, Jesus, girl.
And so I woke up feeling a little grumpy, really tired, but we still did our morning walk because that's important to me. I still did my workout because that's important to me, and I wanted to get those squats in. And that particular day was really hot.
It was a hot day.
So we went for a very light walk at lunch, trying to seek out the shade spots so that Miles
didn't overheat.
Yeah. We're very aware of that.
Which that stresses you out in itself sometimes, yeah.
And I'm just feeling wiped, just super exhausted and wiped. And this is about 1 o'clock on Thursday.
Well, and you were feeling little sporadic things, but you're like, that's just more not
it was
real
nothing.
contractions.
In my opinion, just from what I understand and from my reading and also just like from what other women have told me, that stuff just can go on. It's not. It's an indicator that your body is preparing, but not an indicator that labor is impending. If that makes sense.
Right.
So I was kind of just ignoring it. So we go on this walk. I'm exhausted. I stop it short, and I say, like, I just want to go home.
Yeah.
Because we had driven elsewhere.
Oh, and I just want to say things that I did help. I did hip releases.
Yes, you did do hip
every
releases.
like 3 days or so on the massage table.
You did a lot.
And I practiced a lot on my counter pressure technique.
Yes.
Which we'll talk about later.
I want to make sure that this is kind of like the boring beginning stuff.
Okay, guys, tune in, pay attention.
We gotta save the energy for the juicy part.
It's gonna get juicy.
Because we could give all the mundane details, but I don't know. But yes, you were an amazing support. This whole story is a big deal. In terms of your support, yours and Julia, our doula.
That's right.
So it's very hot. So we go home. We're home by about 1. At 3, literally at 3, I'm using the bathroom. I stand up, and water just comes out of me. Liquid just comes out of me.
Yeah.
Now,
Not a lot,
but truth be told, I have peed my pants so many times in that pregnancy. It's not even funny. And it was a very different sensation. I didn't feel like I was peeing. It just felt like liquid was just coming out of me.
Yeah.
It was just trickling, but it was definitely there. And I kind of had a moment. I was like, I think my water bag just started leaking. And I go into the kitchen, and a little more comes out.
Yeah, like two waves.
2 little waves.
Yeah.
Just a little bit, but it's not pee. I can tell, It's funny because right then and there, this is like 3 o'clock, my mom calls me directly after.
That's right.
And she goes, she doesn't even say hi. She just goes, how are you? And that's very unlike my mom. And I don't know why to this day that moment really trips me out because...
Like she knew.
She knew. Yeah. She was just like, how are you? I was like, well, I funny you say that. I think my water just maybe started to break or started to leak. And I texted Julia. So again, Julia is our doula. She has played a very significant role in this whole pregnancy and the birth experience.
Right.
She's amazing. We text Julia. She says, what makes you think this was your water? And I tell her. She goes, that does sound like it, but there's 2 layers. This sounds like it was the first layer starting to leak. It's not that full-blown gush. The rule is that once your water does go, you have about 24 hours before you want active labor because the risk of infection goes up.
Right.
It's a protective layer.
That's for you.
For me.
Not for baby. Yeah.
For both.
Oh, for both.
Really.
Okay.
Yeah. So she's like, just, try to relax, lay on your side, see if contractions come on and time them. And, if by 3 in the morning, 12 hours after that, you're still not feeling active labor, call me and we'll discuss, taking castor oil, a couple other ways to get you kind of going so that you don't have to go and get, Pitocin. I know that's not what you want.
Right.
So just relax, just take it easy. And I from the beginning, I knew my plan was that when I started labor to any degree, I was going to take a shower and wash my hair so that even though I was going to look greasy in my birth photos, at least my hair would be washed. Hair still looked a mess after the fact, so that was kind of... Anyway.
All the sweat.
So I take a shower, I lay on my side, and I start feeling contractions. And I can feel they're actual contractions because they are this localized, just kind of... this build-up. And I'm not going to say pain, but they were just like this light, a period cramp. But they were more localized and...
Concentrated.
And punctuated and concentrated.
Yeah.
So I'm laying on my side and I'm timing them. And they are 5 minutes apart and they are lasting 1 minute. And that's when your hospital will say to go in. And that's when your app will say to go in. But they're like so not strong. Like I'm feeling them and I'm like, this is funny. You know, like it's funny because I imagine a lot of people would go in and then they would be turned away because they wouldn't be far along enough.
Right.
You
so
know?
you've decided, I don't want to
I was
go
like,
through
I'm not
being
even
turned
gonna
away.
go. Yeah, they're just not there yet.
And they were totally like early labor where you're conversational, you're doing great.
I'm eating peanut butter toast. I'm like, I love me some peanut butter toast. Let me have that be my last meal.
And this is like 4-ish
they say whatever you eat when you're about to go into labor, make sure it's something you're okay throwing up.
Sure.
I didn't want to be that person, but we'll get to that. So I call my mom again, and I'm like, you know, I think I'm entering into labor. I got contractions. They're consistent. Can you come pick up Miles? Because the plan was that Miles was going to go to them.
That's right.
So that Julia could come here, and also so that he wouldn't be alone for 2 nights in a row.
And that way she got to see us and hang out.
Oh, and that too, for sure. So my whole family comes, my mom, my dad, my sister. We hang out for a little bit. We bring out snacks. We bring out drinks.
Take some pictures.
I'm lying down because at this point they're kind of building. And I'm finding myself needing to go into like a child's pose every time one comes on.
And your head's in your mom's lap.
And my head's in my mom's
comforting
lap.
you.
But I'm still like socializing with you guys. So I'm still
in between.
In between. I'm still here. When one comes on, I flip into child's pose. I call you over. You put your counter pressure into my lower back. Mm-hmm. It really helps me through. And I'm like, you know, I'm feeling this like false sense of security. I'm like, oh, this is labor. Let's do this. You know, mm-hmm. I'm like, I have a system.
And interestingly, yeah, it was when they first came on, they were like 5 minutes apart. But I think when your parents were over, it got more sporadic.
It was more sporadic at that point.
So then we were like, okay, good. We're glad we didn't go to the hospital.
Yeah,
They're
and
more
sporadic. They were picking up in intensity, but the timing became more erratic. So.
But some were like 2 minutes apart.
Some were 2.
So we're like, oh my gosh. But then it was like, 6
minutes apart. It was literally from 2 to 12. You know, like very erratic. Your body's not. I was still in early labor.
Right.
They come. We snack. We have a good time. We take pictures. They head out with Miles. I go into the bedroom for some air conditioning and some darkness. Yep. I talk on the phone with my friend Max.
That's right.
He's like, talking to me. I have a contraction, but I don't want to hang up because I'm really happy to be talking to him. So he's like talking to me. I did tell him. I was like, Max, you just helped me through another contraction. And at that point, they are picking up in intensity. And really what I'm trying to do during them is not hold my breath intense. Mm-hmm. I'm just like trying to move through.
Yeah.
And then in between, it's great because you just kind of feel back to your normal self. So Max and I are talking, and so I'm not like that affected, you know. And now it's like probably about 5 o'clock.
Right.
Max and I hang up. Things are starting to pick up in intensity. I'm feeling more pressure.
You're timing them.
I'm timing them-ish, but you don't. What Julia had mentioned is give yourself a break from timing because that's a hang-up that mm-hmm. you shouldn't necessarily be. You want to focus on it, but you also want to let labor progress. And if you're too fixated on logistics and not what's happening in your body, you might kind of counter that from happening. So I gave timing a break for a while.
But when you were timing, you were sending screenshot updates to Julia.
Yes, exactly. She was in the loop, and you were in the loop. Right. So you end work off at 5. You and I start hanging out on the couch. A couple hours go by.
The bedroom, I thought.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm sorry. I wanted you in the bedroom with me. And Miles was on the bed with me before my parents picked him up. So I'm getting a little
Miles was comforting you.
He was comforting me, too. But then you came into the bedroom. I said, can you just be in here with me for a wile? This was after Miles was gone.
I was bringing you water. And
you were bringing me water. You were giving me counter pressure. You were just being there, which was really helpful. I didn't want to be alone at that point. But
I also started going into a little bit like prepping for hospital mode.
Yeah, you were putting bags in the car.
Because it was Thursday, trash day was the next day, but I knew we would probably be stuck in the hospital. So I'm taking all the trash out, putting the trash barrels out, sending the hospital bag into the car, and I'm like, I counter pressure you. And I'm like, cool, I got like 4 minutes. And I like run out and like try to do a bunch of things and then try to be back.
You were great. And I remember like I just really wanted you in that room. But I'm glad that you were doing the stuff you were doing because it did need to get done.
Yeah.
So, but I was finding myself my breathing was starting to become different in the contractions. Like I needed to take deeper breaths in and out to get through them.
Right.
They were getting a little more intense.
Yeah, they were definitely ramping up.
Eventually, I want to come out into the living room. So it's like 7 o'clock, I'm doing a little more of that laboring here.
And I think it was around that time.
It was around
I think
8.
I was still doing counter pressure, but there was a point where I think it was like 7-ish that you were like, I don't want that anymore. It's not helping.
It wasn't then.
It wasn't then?
No,
okay.
I was far more into it when that
okay.
happened.
Oh, you're right. I think I was like, maybe we should try to go to bed, because if this is going to be a middle of the night thing.
Right.
It was like 7-ish.
Well, we called Julia. She said, go to bed.
Go to sleep.
She's like, try to get some sleep. At least Nick gets some sleep because you're a support. And the supports need to be as rested. I'm not probably going to be rested, but the supports need to be, more rested, not as rested than me. So she was like, make sure you try to go to bed. Nick gets some rest.
It's like 7:30.
30, maybe 8 or 8:30.
No, it was like 7:30, 7:15, and we went to bed.
And I'm like, I want to go to bed too. I'm like,
you got your eye mask on.
Unfair. I want to go to bed too.
Yeah.
I'm tired. I put on I get ready. I brush my teeth.
Yeah.
I lay down, and you're going to sleep. And for me, things are like really picking up.
That's right.
Oh, we got a little crying baby. I think I gotta feed her.
So do we want to pause?
We're gonna pause it, and I'm gonna put her on the boob, and then we'll restart.
We're back.
We're back. That was 5 seconds.
Baby on the boob.
So I'm in bed, and things are really picking up for me here. You're sleeping, which is great. I'm happy that you're sleeping, but I'm also going through more intense contractions. So each one
kind of wakes me up.
It kind of wakes you up, and I kind of secretly wanted it too.
You were jealous.
No, I just wanted you to be. I just wanted a support. Yeah. I was like, it was coming to the point where each one was starting to take more of my kind of mental energy and focus, and I wanted you to be awake, but I obviously also knew that you needed to sleep.
Right. So I think I did help do some counter pressure and try to help you relax.
Right.
But then I think I asked you, like, is it okay if I go to sleep?
Right.
And you obviously were trying to get through the contractions, so I decided to go into the guest room to go sleep and let you have the air conditioned room just to like do your thing.
Well,
and I got your approval.
Back up for 2 seconds, but that's true. Yeah, all of that's true. At this point,
this is probably like 8:30 now.
9 or so.
Oh, really? Okay, like 9. Yeah.
Actually, it's not even worth it to back up, but I do want to insert something, which is at that point inside of my head. Initially, so my dad, he had been talking about when he went through, I think, his kidney stone situation. He had told me before I went into labor, how he was just in the car going through this kidney stone and kind of telling himself, like, this is painful, but I'm not dying. And for some reason, my brain just latched onto that as being really helpful. So in the beginning parts of labor, or for this, I would just go, it's just pain, I'm not dying. It's just pain, I'm not dying.
That was your little mantra. Yeah.
And then at this stage, as things are getting more intense, I was like, let's reframe it. It's not pain, it's just pressure moving my baby down.
Right.
So through each contraction, I would breathe, I would sit in child's pose, I would rock back and forth, and I would go, it's not pain, it's just pressure pushing my baby down.
Right.
And for some reason, that reframing from pain to pressure made those contractions start to become more easy to get through. And that's when I started, though, however, making noise. So rather than just breathing, I started, like, audibly, like, going...
moaning.
Ooh, to get through them. And that's when you were, like, waking up. And
that's when I went to the other room.
Can I go into the other room? And I said yes, because I did want you to have rest.
Right.
So now I'm in the bedroom.
But you didn't stay there very long.
I didn't.
Yeah.
I wanted to come out into the living room for some reason. Yeah. I wanted the birth ball.
That's right.
I also just didn't want to be in that little room anymore. I wanted to be somewhere else.
Space to walk.
Out of my body. Yeah. I was like, where can I go where I would no longer be in my body? Because things were starting to become more, discomfort was starting to become a thing. But I also was erratic in the timing.
So that was frustrating.
it was just kind of like, wow, so I'm experiencing this discomfort, but it's
only the beginning.
Only the beginning, you know, like I really want my unmedicated birth.
Right.
And I'm already feeling this like...
Because you were timing them, and it was just like...
And they were still like 10 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, you know?
Right.
So I'm like, I'm going to go to the living room. And I go to the living room, and now things are like... I'm just... They're picking up. They're ramping.
Right.
And it's not pain, it's just pressure, pushing my baby down. It's kind of working, but I'm also needing a little bit more... Do we need to let this helicopter go by? Okay, sorry, that was a helicopter moment. So I'm in the living room, and things are definitely ramping up. And I'm finding that my little mantras are still effective, but they're starting to wear off in their effect. And I'm just having to really focus on like my breath and moving through them. I found that like staying in some sort of forward fold, but also rocking my hips.
Like hands on the coffee table, a forward bowed position, 90-degree angle from the hips, and you were kind of rocking.
That was when you came out. That wasn't quite here yet.
Well, not yet. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I did find that, and then also concentrating on the in-between moments, feeling as normal as possible. Just feeling like normal Anna on those in-between moments to kind of regain my sense of self. And then at one point, I'm like, man, I really want to let Nick sleep, but I am needing him out here. So I think probably about 5 times within the span of 15 minutes, I called baby.
I heard, it was just baby? Yeah. In my dreams, I was like, I'm like deep in sleep because at this point I went to bed at 9. It's only been probably a couple hours of deep sleep. And it's hard to wake me up from deep sleep. And in my dream, there's like a loud, baby. And then, I kind of like perk up in my dream. I'm like, oh, someone's calling me. But then it's not there. So I kind of fall back asleep.
Yeah.
And then again, baby. And then, but never twice. It's like one shot. And then like, is this my dream? What's happening? And I think like by the 5th one, I'm awake. I'm like, I think that's Anna calling for me.
Well, because I wanted you to be sleeping. And I didn't want to need you too early. I wanted to need you when I really needed you so that you were nice and rested. So when I was calling baby, I was trying to do it in a way that wouldn't wake you up,
like gently wake me up.
But also wake you up, if that makes sense. And then finally by the 5th one, I was like, no, I really need him out here. Baby!
Yeah.
And that's when you came out and you were so tired.
And
you made yourself some coffee.
This was midnight, I think.
This was midnight, and we called...
I brewed some coffee.
I did call Julia, and she said, okay... let's time them. Let's go back to timing for about a half hour.
Right.
And then send me that screenshot. She's already awake because she's used to being up in the middle of the night. Yeah. You know, though she tries to sleep when she can't, obviously.
Well, and this is the part where I got my coffee. I'm sitting on the edge of the couch, and you're standing doing the forward bow at the coffee table.
Now it's happening.
And I've just woken up pretty tired, but I want to be there for you. And I think the contraction comes on. You've relayed to me they're a lot more intense now.
Yeah.
I go to do the counter pressure, and you're like, no.
That's right. That's when that's out. Yeah.
You don't want counter
pressure.
pressure.
Which is crazy because up until that point, the counter pressure had been so nice and such a relief. And at this point, this is when, we called Julia. She says that things are really starting to ramp up internally. I'm feeling a lot of pressure. And when you touch me, it doesn't feel good. Like I just don't want to be touched in that way. I don't want that counter pressure.
Right.
But so what did feel nice was that you would just sit on the couch next to me and you would lightly stroke my arm.
Just a very soft grazing.
That was like this. It just felt comforting.
Yeah.
As things were getting harder.
But you were just basically doing it on your own.
But I was just getting through it for a half hour. I'm timing them, but they're like, they don't make sense because I think one has ended, but it's still there.
It's all a blur,
It's all blurry. I'm like, none of this timing makes sense, but it's starting to turn more consistent. 4 minutes, 6 minutes. I send a screenshot to Julia.
It's like 15 or so.
You start being a little more like aware, and I'll let you maybe talk about this part. But I think I'm starting to go more into that, what we call animal mode, that Julia had taught us.
Yeah, you're definitely during the contractions, you got more guttural and the noises. You weren't just doing breathing. You were like really making noises.
Yeah.
Not necessarily like the volume was super loud, but it just was like some like deeper voices and like you were definitely kind of going into this animal like state, and like you were not like not only during the contraction, just I needed to just shut up and be quiet.
Yeah, I couldn't talk in between.
And you were like completely animal mode during the contraction, and then when you came out of the contraction for the brief time, you still were not like down for a conversation.
No.
You were still like almost like recovering.
Yes.
And I'm just quiet, and you're like breathing exercises on the recovery time, and then the contraction would come on again, and you would go and like kind of animal. So I'm like, this is Anna's not here anymore. She's checked out, you know. So like, there's no Anna here.
And you kept saying like, baby, I'm wondering like if it's time to go in.
I was like, I think we need to go to the hospital now.
No, I don't. I'm just being a wuss.
That's right. You thought you were just being a wuss.
I was
with
like,
the pain.
I don't want to go in and be 4 centimeters dilated. I was like, I think I'm just being a wuss because this is my first time.
And then but then you're like, the idea of getting to the car and going to the hospital was just not appealing to you.
I was like, I just want to have birth here.
You're like, let's just do it here.
Yeah.
And I'm like, she's not coherent. She's not like being conscious, logical Anna. She's just like, I want to just lay on the floor and just do my animal thing here.
All my little forums would say, you know, labor at home for as long as you can, but when you feel like you don't want to go to the hospital, that's when it's time to go. But I was still like, no, there's no way. You know, I just started laboring. This is probably just like getting started. And then you're like, okay.
And at this point, I think we've sent a screenshot, and Julia has said that she's on our way.
Oh, she calls and she goes, do you want more support?
You're right. And I think you said you felt really bad.
I didn't want to say yes because I wanted her to have her sleep. I wanted everyone to be rested. But I was like,
I need it.
You know, I think I'm going to need some more support. And she's like, okay, I'm on my way.
That's right.
But you...
So then you hang up.
Taking matters into your own hands.
I think you hang up. She's like, I'm on my way. And then you're still quite animalistic with your contractions, but now it seems like there's just less gaps now. It doesn't seem like there's 5 minutes now. It's like it seems like 2 minutes apart. Like it's on
timing.
And then I'm oh, that's right. You're just doing your thing. You're not on your phone. I get my own contraction app timer in that moment with my phone, and I'm not even telling you that I'm timing it, but I'm timing what I'm perceiving as a contraction and not.
Yeah.
And I'm like, these things are like 2 minutes to a minute apart. I'm like, it's go time. So I think I texted Julia, and I was like, hey, she's really intense right now, and they're like 2 minutes to 1 minute apart.
Yeah.
And then she calls me.
Yeah.
And as she's calling me, you run to the bathroom.
And I puke.
And you puke. I don't know you puke. As you coming out of the bathroom after puking to tell me I just puked, I had just hung up with Julia.
Yeah.
But even for me just telling you the 2 minute parts, Julia says, I'm not even coming to your house. Let's just meet at the hospital.
Yeah.
So then I tell you, you're like, I just puked. And I was like, cool, Julia's me to the hospital. We're going. And you're like, wait, what?
Yeah.
And I'm like, no.
Which is also funny because also in my little forums, a lot of people say that if you're going to throw up, I mean, you could throw up whenever, everyone's body's different, but oftentimes it will happen like right before you transition because that's when things start getting really intense. And if anyone out there is listening to this and knows me, you know that I really don't like throwing up.
She will fight to the death to not
hate it.
Vomit.
But in this circumstance, it was my only, like, that was all I could do.
And you were feeling nauseous for all these contractions.
Well, I was like, I understand why people would throw up. Like, a lot of them made me want to go sit on the toilet and poo. So that's what I would do. But I didn't poo. I just wanted to. You know what I mean?
You felt the pressure. Yeah.
And in that, it felt like I wanted to expel from everywhere because I just needed this demon that was inside of me to come out. But
angel, baby. She's an angel.
No, she's an angel. But at that point, what was happening to me was an exorcism. But then when the nausea hit, I was like, oh no, this is when people throw up. And then I went to the bathroom and what was sad is that
peanut butter toast.
No.
Oh no.
I had decided after the peanut butter toast to go eat salmon.
Oh God. Why? Mistake.
But I did feel a little bit better, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so I go outside, I'm standing in the driveway. You're like backing the car out.
Well, I'm scrambling to make sure
It's
we
midnight.
got everything.
I'm
it's
laboring
midnight.
in the driveway.
No, it's 12. It's 12:45.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to get everything ready. I got to turn the car around because you can't get in the car. And you're just in the driveway.
I'm just like having like these
and like wake up the neighborhood.
Like hardcore contractions. And I'm just so sad because the last thing I want to do at that point is get into a car. It's the actual last thing I would want to do at that point.
Yeah.
But I have to get into the car, and I know this. So I get into that dang car, and little do I know, I'm like really far along. And while we're driving, I'm having serious contractions. And the unfortunate part is that I can't do anything with my body that would help. I just have to sit there.
You're just kind of laying in this sideways position in the chair.
And Nick is like approaching our neighborhood stop sign, and he's coming to a halt, and I'm just like, blow through all of them, because it's midnight. There's no cars on the road. I was like, any cop that stops me while I'm in labor is gonna let us go pretty much right away.
Yeah, so definitely did a very extravagant California rolls. And even through some traffic signals, but very carefully.
I didn't know
that. Yeah. We got from our neighborhood to the hospital, which on a normal day could be like 20, 30 minutes away, but we got there in like 10, 15.
Yeah.
Actually, I think it was 12 minutes it took us.
Yeah.
And we rolled into the horseshoe driveway at 1:05 a.m. Thursday.
Julia's already
morning.
right there.
Julia's waiting.
I immediately get out of the car and have a contraction.
Right outside the car. Yeah.
A security guard comes out because it's the middle of the night, and he's like, "Are you all three together?" And he's working out the logistics, and all of a sudden I have this other big wave, and he's like, "I think I will go get a nurse." He runs in the opposite direction, and we walk up to check in, and I'm just actively laboring. And they're like, "Do you have your papers?" And I get the papers out of the bag, and somehow
I got the papers.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, you were doing your thing.
My bad.
Yeah, you told me that they were in the bag. But,
and Julia's helping me through, and she's giving me, her counter pressure was a little different because you're so strong.
Yeah.
And the strength was really nice in the beginning, but she was able to give it in a way that it didn't.
Softer.
Yeah, and for some reason it just really helped. So she was giving it to me then. She was helping me with my breathing because at this point,
you were holding your breath.
Well, no, the contractions had started. They had transitioned into me needing to bear down and push.
That's right. You wanted to push.
And if I could tell anyone what you want to mentally prepare for if you're going into unmedicated labor, it is this part. The part where your body wants to just bear down and push.
Will you push your hair away from the mic? Yeah, there you go.
And it's so that was probably for me the most challenging part.
Yeah.
So Julia was giving me a couple of different techniques. One was to make like a
horse
noise with your lips to help soften your pelvic floor, and one was to blow out birthday candles.
That was later.
That was later, but those were to help you not push in a time where that's all your body wanted to do.
That's right.
So I'm starting to transition into that.
And we're in the initial
now they
test
take
for
us
COVID
into,
room.
Yeah, the triage room.
So you don't even know where you're at.
I don't know where
but you're
I'm
having
at
to do this horse stuff because you want to push.
My body's just like bearing down so hard, and they're like, "Okay, we need you to get up on the table." They're very sympathetic. All the nurses are like really wonderful and very positive. They're giving me all the informed consent, asking me if everything's okay. They were all really lovely. But this was hard. So yeah, we're in the triage room and they're doing their thing. They finally are able to check me, which, if I can just say, a hand up your cervix when you're in that late on in your labor is not a pleasant experience.
And she checks you.
And it checks me, and I'm already at like 8 centimeters.
8 centimeters.
So this is the part that I
was probably like 115, 120.
Yeah.
We're still in the triage room,
right.
And she checks you, and you're 8 centimeters, and it's probably about 120.
And if you're not familiar with labor and delivery at hospitals, they have one room for labor, they have one room for delivery. When you're at 8 centimeters, you're entering into a stage of labor called transition, where your body is doing that final jolt to push a baby out. This is the most difficult part of labor. And this is what I was then going into. So they didn't even send us to a labor room. They just sent us straight to the delivery room.
Yeah, we skipped it.
Also, another hospital policy is that they want to monitor you in some fashion, and they want to give you an IV. They tried to give me an IV. It blew my vein. They were like...
The doctor said, whatever.
F it. Don't give her.
We'll do it after.
Which is kind of already peculiar because that's usually a non-negotiable, right? Is that you get your IV. So I don't have my IV. And at this point...
They do have a monitor for the baby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, they do have a monitor.
On the stomach, yeah.
But so I'm right in the delivery room. And right now I'm laying on my side. And I'm at 8 centimeters. And this is probably the most intense sensations I've ever experienced in my life.
Well, they haven't since checked you since that initial triage room.
Right,
so
exactly.
You think you're still at 8 centimeters.
Well, I think I'm still at 8, but for the next 20 to 40 minutes, I can't remember, 20, 30 minutes.
You're trying not to push.
I'm trying not to push, and this is the most intense experience of my life.
I started feeling, I was trying to record and take pictures and do it, but I was, there was a moment where you turned on your side and I could see you were breaking a little bit and you were like, almost like sobbing and looking at Julia like, I can't not push.
Yeah, I can't not push.
I can't not push. I can't not push. And Julia was like,
Bring it back.
Blow the count. Yeah. And like, I'm really trying to, and she was great coaching you. And I'm like, I start actually crying a little just from like feeling for what you're going through. And
I couldn't control what was coming out of my mouth.
Yeah.
It was like I actually didn't cry tears.
You didn't cry. No, that's, yeah.
It was more of this like, just the noise was just from a part of me that I have never accessed before.
Yeah.
I couldn't not make that noise, and it was loud and it was intense.
I felt sad, yeah.
And I think it bothered you, and it was the most intense work I've ever put my body through, because it's not the feeling you feel isn't necessary. It is. I could definitely understand it being interpreted as pain, but I think what it is it's this intensity of pressure, wanting to push so bad, and your body physically feels like it's bearing downward, but you're having to resist that from happening. It's so difficult.
And you need to resist because you don't want to push too soon because the cervix is not open enough, and you'll have difficulty if you start pushing too soon. But you keep asking, when can I push? When can I start pushing?
And we're waiting for the on-call
to check again.
Doctor, because my OB's out of town.
That's right. There's no doctor at the hospital. Anna's doing her thing, and you can hear the nurse in the back calling, when's the doctor going to be here? He said he's on his way. He's driving over 10 minutes. So they all also want you to wait and stall because they want to make sure the doctor's here ready before this baby comes.
They check me. I'm at like 9.5.
9.5.
And they say I have a little bit of a lip, which means that everything is about to happen. It's about to happen. We're waiting on the doctor. Eventually he comes. Chillest, awesomest doctor I ever could have asked for. Just like walks in. He's got like a cartoon hat on. And he's just vibing the moment. Like he just woke up. And he is feeling just feeling it, right? He's tired,
around.
But he's also joking with the nurses. And honestly, I needed that so bad in that moment.
Levity.
Just this levity. And he was like just so on board with what we were doing. He wasn't like trying to push different things. And I'd never met this guy before. He just was super on board with it. And finally that moment comes where I can start pushing. Oh my goodness.
Julia says now is the time.
Workout of my life. She goes, okay, Anna, you can listen to your body now. And she's just the voice of an angel in so many ways throughout this experience.
Thank you.
So, does that make it easy? No. But now, every time that sensation comes on, I can actually listen to it.
Lean into it, yeah.
And I can lean into it, and whoa. I mean, that is an endurance event. Pushing is an endurance event. Unless you're one of those women that can do it in three contractions or 3 whatevers, which happens for people. Pushing is an endurance event. You have to really, this is where my squats came in handy. Hardcore.
Yeah.
You push, but you only push when your body feels like it needs to. You don't push in the other moments. You push when your body feels like it needs to, and you push like the living daylights out of yourself. And then in the in-between, you regain your sense of self, you regain your composure.
Yeah, and they were about, well, we can talk over it, but it was about, I think there were about you actually were getting some good breaks. They were like 3 to 4 minutes apart.
Yeah. And it was nice. Honestly,
and you were actually conversational.
That was a respite, such a bit of the transition phase.
Right.
This was like,
it seemed less painful.
Yes.
In its own way.
It was.
Yeah.
Honestly, it was a relief. What was difficult was when
the push.
The push was very difficult.
Yeah.
Her head started to come through, because that's when you get that ring of fire sensation.
And she was coming out a little and going back in.
Going back in.
Coming out a little and coming back in. Yeah.
And I think the whole thing took about an hour.
Probably, I would say 45 minutes. Yeah.
We tried 2 different positions. Started on my back.
The initial position was doing well.
Yeah. Starting on my back with my hands behind my knees and pulling my body into my knees.
They put some footrests out for your feet to be on. Mm-hmm.
And then the second one was the squat bar, where they brought the squat bar out. I sat up, but the problem there is that I could hold on to the squat bar.
And you were pulling up.
And I was pulling up instead of bearing down.
Yeah.
So Julia noticed that it wasn't making progress, and she said...
Oh, and you started saying, when is this...
I was like, why is she here yet?
Why is she coming out?
Like her head hasn't even left the
I'm kind of seeing, like, she's coming out a little, but, like, she was not coming out as far as she was in the previous position. Yeah. And you did maybe a good, I want to say 3 to 4 pushes with the squat bar.
Yeah.
But she wasn't coming out back and forth as much as the previous position. And Julie and I are kind of seeing that. You're obviously going through it.
Yeah.
And you're like, why isn't she here yet? Yeah. And we're like, let's go back to the other position.
I was really thankful for that. I didn't know that was true, but by the time we got back to the first position, and by the way, this whole time, the nurses they're like really rocking me on. Yeah. Like, they're like, you are doing so great. How are you this good of a pusher? Like, you're doing so well. Right. And I was like, really?
They also thought you were like not loud at all.
They thought I was so
even
calm.
Though you thought you were.
Even though I thought I was losing my mind. So her head finally, like, starts clearing. They said, Anna, look down, look at her.
Touch her, yeah.
Touch her head. I look down, I see the, like, the baby's head cones when it first comes out, because it's making, so.
It's not round.
So I see this tiny thing, and I'm like, she's small, because I think that's her whole head.
Right.
I'm like, wow, why is she so tiny? But really, it was just the cone part of the head coming out.
Mm-hmm.
And so I keep pushing through every contraction. I'm feeling that ring of fire sensation, which honestly... that ish is not anything in comparison to transition. So don't fear the ring of fire. Anyway, she comes out. Her head is out. I look down. It's a lot bigger than I thought. The doctor comes in. He starts maneuvering assisting. Her shoulders.
Yeah. This whole time they're putting a lot of oil.
They're putting a lot of oil on.
Constantly.
A lot of oil, mineral oil, just constant mineral oil, thank goodness.
And each time asking your consent, saying,
yes,
Anna, we're going to put some oil on, okay?
They said, is it okay if we put more oil on?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
So he comes in, he starts maneuvering the shoulders. I hear a voice that says, grab your baby, Anna. I learned later that was Julia. Mm-hmm. Again, voice of an angel. Grab your baby, Anna. I'm like, what? Grab your baby. I look down. Her shoulders are there.
There's her shoulders.
I lift her up to my chest.
You grab her shoulders.
Which apparently I pulled her out.
You finish pulling her out. Yeah.
We later learned from the doctor that he hasn't let anyone do that in 20 years.
Yeah. Well, and his reasoning, just most women are not
in a coherent
state to be able to do that.
He said you were so calm. Yeah. Again, I was like, who was so calm? Who is this person they're talking about? But at this point, I pull her up.
And you didn't even realize you did that.
I didn't. No, I thought I thought they handed her to me.
You thought they handed her to me, but you actually pulled her out. Yeah.
And the amount of relief and joy I felt in that moment, and hearing you next to me, you were laughing and you were crying. And I was laughing because I had never felt such an incredible victory in my life, you know, and now I had this little baby and she was crying.
Right in your chest.
And she was on my chest, and I was like, wow, this little person I've been growing is on me now. I just did that. Like, it's done. And the sensation was unbelievable. It was unbelievable.
Yeah. And she immediately started trying to crawl naturally on her own to the boob.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was incredible.
So she's latching, and I tell the doctor, I'm like, I still feel bad. Why do I still feel like
in pain?
He's like, well, you haven't birthed the placenta yet. You're still pregnant. We still have to give birth to the placenta. And I was like, initially like, oh no, we have to do this again.
Yeah.
But really it was nothing. He said, what I do want to say is, he's like, okay, give it a little push, give it a little push. And then he starts pulling through the umbilical cord.
Via the umbilical cord.
The placenta comes out, and oh my God. If you are listening, you've never had a baby. And just imagine the most satisfying poo of your life. But then multiply that by 100. That is what it's like to birth a placenta. It feels so good. It feels like your body...
Like better than the baby being born.
Oh my God. Yeah. Like 10 out of 10 would do that again. It was... like, I wish everyone...
Could have that.
Could experience what it's like to let the placenta go. It feels so... Anyway.
I want to do it again.
Yeah. Oh my God. And then when that happened, I was like... The wave of relief just crashed ashore. It was amazing.
Yeah.
And...
You kept asking for ice packs, though.
Oh, yeah, because at that point, the stinging,
right.
had taken over of my perineum and everything just getting so stretched.
Yeah.
And I asked the doctor, I said, did I tear? And he was like, I don't think so. I'm going to check right now. He checks, and I didn't freaking tear.
No tearing.
What in the world? There was no tearing.
Yeah.
And he was great. You were freaking awesome, Nick.
And you did all this with, there was no epidural.
Julie was great. No epidural. I was able to have literally 0 interventions, including the IV.
Right. I mean, the membrane sweep was basically the only
That's an intervention,
kind of
but it's like a non-harmful intervention.
Yeah, yeah.
And I did it, and the joy I felt in that moment. Oh, and they waited 5 minutes before...
For the delayed cord clamping.
Before cutting the umbilical cord, and... They had you do it.
That's right.
Which was awesome.
That was awesome. I had to do it twice. I cut it initially, and then I trimmed it for little Alessia.
Yeah, little baby girl Alessia.
Yeah. And everything's going great and
everything
amazing.
I feel crazy saying that, but yeah, she took to my breast, so she didn't really have a hard time with latching. Mm-hmm. She was born 7 pounds 7 ounces and 20 inches long.
That's right. And she was born at 2:40 a.m.
2:40 a.m.
So pulled into the driveway at 1:05, and she was born at 2:40. But we didn't even make it to the delivery room probably until about 1:20, maybe even 1:25. Yeah. So almost from being into the delivery room, like maybe an hour and 10 minutes total before she was born.
Something like that.
Like that was wild. Like it was just go. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is happening so fast. And like, there was a moment of like, okay, maybe this will be a little longer when we got the squat, the squat bar out. And I was like, okay, maybe this will take a little longer than I thought. Cause initially it was just all happening so fast. But then as soon as we went back to the original position, I was like, oh, this is happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You were phenomenal. And I almost wish I could see what it was all like through your eyes. Cause we were in such 2 different perspectives of
Totally.
it.
Yeah, I was whispering in your ear, like, you can do this, you can do this.
You were great. I honestly couldn't have asked for a better birth experience, and I really mean that. So if you got this far and you're still listening, despite all of the words of, like, intensity and demon inside of me and blah, 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 I had a great birth, and that was a really positive experience.
All the nurses were joking around, like, see you next year.
Yeah, they're like, you were made to birth babies.
You were made to birth babies. 12 more.
Like,
12 more babies.
And I think... And then one of them was like, hey, at the day after, hey, you were the one that came in screaming last night. Hey, great job. I'm like walking around, like, they don't realize I'm a mom.
And then the baby nurse who was there to, like, deliver the vitamin K shot and stuff and weigh her, she said to you that was the first natural birth she'd ever seen.
Unmedicated,
But she... But she's not necessarily in the delivery room always. Right. She normally comes in like, so it wasn't like she's been working there for 20 years, but it's not like she's in the delivery room every time. Right. It's just because
through COVID.
For whatever reason. Oh, because it was because of COVID that she now was in the delivery room.
Yeah.
So since COVID, so basically since for a year, over a year, that was her first like fully natural birth that she'd ever seen. And she was like, she thought it was so beautiful. Ecstatic, she was ecstatic. Yeah.
And all of the nurses and the doctor and you and Julia, I mean, you and Julia were kind of givens, but who you end up working with when you get there is kind of a crapshoot.
Yeah, yeah.
And everyone was incredible. I mean, I couldn't have asked for a better setup and people to be more supportive. And the doctor that I ended up with was so great.
And where did we have the birth? Just for the listeners.
Oh, Huntington Hospital.
In Pasadena?
In Pasadena.
That's right.
There were some things that we could complain about. Do not get me wrong, but I don't want to do that.
No. Yeah.
And that was it. That, I mean, there's more story to it, being like what happens after.
And we can cover that.
And breastfeeding, but I think we should cap it there because
Beautiful.
That was the birth. And I love you so much. You're such a great daddy so far.
I love you too, baby.
And you always will be.
Great job.
Thanks. Love you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.